A very good morning, students. Today we'll be learning about natural vegetation, forests and types. Natural vegetation of India reflects a state of perfect harmony with the relief and climatic conditions of the subcontinent. In fact, this correspondence is so perfect that if one superimposes the two maps showing the annual rainfall and the altitude above the mean sea level, one can easily infer the types of vegetation that will be found in each major region of the country. Most of our Himalayan and peninsular areas are covered with indigenous or endemic flora, while the Indo-Gangetic Plain and the Thar Desert contain plant species that have come generally from outside. Here the plant species are exotic and have migrated from the trans-Himalayan areas, that is Tibet and China. This natural vegetation is classified as boreal. Plants which have come from the adjacent tropical region are known as paleotropical. Those plants which came from the North Africa have influenced the vegetation. Those migrating from Indo-Malaysia have influenced the vegetal cover of hilly areas of northeastern India. This process of the migration of uninvited plant species is not only continuous but has actually become more marked with the increase in communication with other lands, both by sea and air. The former having now spread out in forests and pasture lands, and the later choking up our rivers, lakes and ponds so much as to earn the nickname Terror of Bengal because of its phenomenal growth in that region. It is spreading to almost all the water sources, ponds and canals in the rest of the country. It may be ascertained from above description that much of our natural vegetal cover is not that natural except perhaps in the inaccessible parts of Himalayas and the interior of Thar Desert. A considerable part of it has been replaced or destroyed as a result of human occupancy of the land. What we usually designate as natural vegetation now refers to a plant community that has been left undisturbed over a long time, so as to allow individual species to adjust themselves to geoclimatic conditions as far as possible. Objectives. In today's class, we will learn about spatial distribution of forests, classification of forests, problems of Indian forestry, national forest policy. Now let's look at the first subheading, spatial distribution of forests in India. According to the National Forest Policy of 1952, about 33% of the geographical area should be under forest. However, the existing forest area is much below the desired level. It may be observed from this particular figure that the Himalayan mountains, Bhabbar and Tarai, Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, Chota Nagpur Plateau, Northeastern Hills, Nilgiris and the hills of peninsular India are the main areas of Indian forests. Unfortunately, about 5 to 6% of the total forest area of the country is under the category of degraded forests. The forest area in India is much below the world average of 34.5% and that of Brazil with 57%, Sweden 58%, United States of America 42%, Germany 41% and Canada 36%. Similarly, the per head forest area in India is only 0.07 hectare as against the world average of 1.10 hectares. Canada with 23 hectares, Brazil 8.6 hectares, Australia 5 hectares, Sweden 4 hectares and United States of America 3.5 hectares per head of population. According to the India State Forest Report, that is ISFR 2019 report, the total forest cover area is 7,12,249 km square, which is 21.67% of the total geographical area of India. The forest and the tree combined is 80.73 million hectare or 24.56% of the total geographical area. Madhya Pradesh has the largest forest cover with 77.82 km square, followed by Arunachal Pradesh 66,688 km square and Chandigarh with 55.611 km square. The top 5 states that have shown an increase in maximum forest cover are Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Telangana and Odisha. 15 states and union territories have above 33% of the total forest cover. India has about 7,12,249 km square of the forest, which is 21.67% of the geographic area of the country. Now let's look at the next pillar for today, which is classification of forests. The forests of India have been classified in a number of ways. On the basis of administration, the forests have been classified into the following categories, which are reserved forests. These forests are under the direct supervision of the government and no public entry is allowed for collection of timber or grazing of cattle. About 53% of the total forest area falls in this category. Next category is protected forests. These forests are looked after by the government, where the local people are allowed to collect fuel wood or timber and graze their cattle without causing serious damage to the forests. The next one under this is unclassified forests. The unclassified forests are those in which there is no restriction on the cutting of trees and grazing of cattle. About 18% of the total forest area of the country falls under this category. In the Constitution of India, forests have been classified under the following categories. Firstly, the state forests. These are under the full control of the government, which is state or central, and include almost all the important forest areas of the country. They constitute about 94% of the total forest area of the country. Next, we have the commercial forests. These forests are owned and administered by local bodies, which could be municipal corporations, municipal boards, etc. They constitute about 5% of the total forest area of the country. Next, we have the private forests. These are under the private ownership and cover slightly more than 1% of the total forest area of the country. On the basis of the merchantability, which is the ability to trade, Indian forests may be grouped under two categories. Merchantable, which are accessible, about 82% of the total forest area belongs to this category. Non-merchantable, these are not accessible, being situated in high mountainous areas with inaccessible topographical features. About 18% of the total forest area, that is the conifers especially of this country, fall under this category. Well, the next classification is based on composition. Based on composition and types of leaves, Indian forests fall into two broad groups. Firstly, the conifer forests. These are temperate forests occupying about 6.50% of the total forest area of the country. Next, we have the broadleaf forests. These are tropical and subtropical monsoon forests. About 94% of the country's forests belong to this category. They are found in the plains, plateau and mountainous areas of the country. Well, next we have the classification based on exploitability. On the basis of exploitability, the Indian forest may be classified into exploitable forests. These forests contribute 58% of the total forest area of the country. Potentially exploitable, these forests are reserved to be utilized in future. These forests cover about 22% of the forest area of the country. Next, we have the other forests. These forests cover about 20% of the total forest area of the country. There is no restriction on their exploitation. Well, the next classification is based on canopy density. The forest cover in terms of canopy density has been classified into the following categories. The main categories according to this classification are, firstly, the tropical evergreen. These forests are mainly found in the areas recording over 150 centimeters of average annual rainfall, where the temperature varies between 20 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. Northeast India, parts of Western Ghats, the Andaman and Nicobar, Upper Assam, lower slopes of Eastern Himalayas, Odisha, along the foothills of Himalayas, Bhabbar and Tarai regions. Trees have multi-storied structures with good canopies. These trees do not shed their leaves annually and hence evergreen. The floor lacks grasses because of the deep shade. There are, however, canes, palms, bamboos, ferns, climbers, which make passage difficult. The important species of these forests are white, cheddar, toon, dhoop, palquinum, mesua, colophyllum, hopia, and canes, gurjan, chalepas, agor, mooli and bamboo. In areas where rainfall varies between 200 to 250 centimeters and the mean monthly temperature varies between 20 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius, the evergreen forests degenerate into semi-evergreen forests. The tropical moist deciduous, the next classification. This is a forest with teak and sal as the dominant species. They form the natural vegetation all over the country, where the average annual rainfall ranges between 100 and 200 centimeters. The tropical moist deciduous forests are found in Sahyadris, the northeastern parts of the peninsula, and along the foothills of Himalayas. The typical landscape consists of tall teak trees with sal, bamboos and shrubs growing fairly close together to form thickets. Next forest, the tropical thorny forest. The tropical thorny forest is a degraded version of the moist deciduous forest. It varies between 75 to 100 centimeters in rainfall and the average annual temperature between 16 degrees Celsius and 22.5 degrees Celsius. These forests are found in peninsular India, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Western UP, Kutch, Madhya Pradesh and foothills of Himalayas. The important trees of these forests are acacia, wild palms, euphorbias, jhad, tamaricks, khair, khokko, dhaman, erunja, cacti, kanju and palas. Next, we have the subtropical montane forests. These forests are found in areas where the average annual rainfall varies between 100 to 200 centimeters and the temperature varies between 15 degrees Celsius and 22 degrees Celsius. These forests are found in the northwestern Himalayas except in Ladakh and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh and on the slopes of northeastern hill states. Chir or pine is the main tree, but broad-leaf trees are also found in these areas. Next, we have the dry deciduous forests. These forests are found in areas where the average annual rainfall ranges between 100 and 150 centimeters. These forests are characterized by closed and rather uneven canopies. Enough light reaches the ground to permit the growth of grasses and timbers. Grasses and shrubs appear during the season of general rains. Next, we have the Himalayan moist forests. These forests are found in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, northern hilly parts of North Bengal. They occur largely as bands of crested dark greenscape of coniferous varieties. The important varieties are oak, chestnut, chir, sal, shrubs and nutritious gases. Next classification, the Himalayan dry temperate forests. These are found in Jammu and Kashmir, Lahul, Chamba, Kinnaur regions of Himachal Pradesh and Sikkim. These are predominantly coniferous forests with shrubs. Next, we have the montane wet temperate forests. These forests are found in the entire Himalayas from Jammu and Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh, between the altitudes of 1500 meters to 3500 meters, where the temperature varies between 12 degrees Celsius to 15 degrees Celsius. These forests also contain scrubs, creepers and ferns. The woods of these forests are durable. At higher altitudes above 3500 meters are the alpine pastures known as margs in Kashmir and bugails in Uttarakhand. Next, we have the alpine and subalpine forests. The alpine forests are found in all along the Himalayas at altitudes ranging between 2500 to 3500 meters. These areas are characterized with short dwarf conifers and lush green nutritious gases during the summer season. Next, we have the desert vegetation. The desert vegetation is confined to the west of Aravallis in the states of Rajasthan and northern Gujarat. The average annual rainfall in the zone is less than 50 centimeters. The diurnal annual range of temperatures are high. Next, we have the tidal forests or the mangrove forests. These forests are found along the coastal areas of Bay of Bengal in the states of West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. The main concentration is found in areas where tides are frequent. The mangrove, which attains a height of up to 30 meters, is the most important tree. Palms occupy creeks and epiphytes are predominant all over the region. Problems of Indian forestry. The specific problems of Indian forestry, we can understand them. Low forest cover. The forest cover in India is only 21.54% as against the world average of about 35%. The overall desired forest cover as recommended in the National Forest Policy of India 1952 should be 33% of the total geographical area of the country. This percentage is missing in almost all the states and UTs except Andaman and Nicobar, Assam, Goa, Kerala, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Manipur. The states of Haryana, Punjab and Rajasthan have less than 5% of their areas under forest. The total number of protected areas in India is 730, out of which 105 are in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. India has 103 national parks, 517 wildlife sanctuaries, 18 biosphere reserves, 26 community reserves and 66 conservation reserves. And most of the forests of India are not gregarious, which creates problems in their exploitation. About 40% of the total forest area is not easily accessible. In about 50% of the total forest area, tribals have been given the rights of free grazing and cutting fuel wood and timber for their personal consumption. The falling of the trees is still primitive and indigenous in most of the forests. There are inadequate trained personnel in the forestry. Much of the energy of the available manpower is used in the protection and conservation of the forests instead of their regeneration. There is inadequate protection against the forest fire, insect pests and plant diseases. Forest areas suffer a loss during the fires during the dry season with winds blowing. Recently, massive fire broke in Almora and Nainital districts. The inflammable pine jungles on Bhavoli Road have left the environmentalists into worry. Nearly 3,000 acres of forest have been destroyed. Next, we have the problem of the open grazing. Extensive damage to Indian forests is being done by grazing of cattle, sheep and goats, especially in the hilly and the mountainous areas by the local people. Nomadic tribes like Bakrawalas, Bhutias, Gaddis, Gujjars and Lepchas practicing transhumance damage the forest ecosystems. Next, the problem of shifting cultivation. Tribals in the hilly areas where rainfall is more than 100 centimeters generally practice shifting cultivation in hilly and mountainous areas. The increasing pressure of population has reduced the Jhum cycle to only 5 years in many parts of Nagaland, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Manipur and Tripura. Consequently, the forests do not have sufficient time to regenerate. The Jhum cultivation is a primitive and unscientific land use that depletes forest, water and soil resources. The felling of trees and the clearing of the bushes shall eventually lead to droughts or floods and decrease in soil fertility. Growing demand for agricultural land. With tremendous increase in the population during the last 65 years, the demand for cereals and agriculture raw materials has increased significantly. Consequently, the forest area has been brought under cultivation, leading to a continuous shrinkage of the forest area. Urbanization and industrialization. Fast urbanization and industrialization in the forest and the hilly areas is also an important cause of forest degradation. The size of cities like Shimla, Mussoorie, Dehradun, Nainital, Ranikhet, Chamba, Dalhousie, Darjeeling has increased over 10 times during the last 30 years. There has been rapid expansion of roads in the Himalayas and other forest areas have been exposed to tourists and pleasure seekers. Due to economic development, 14,000 square kilometers of forests were cleared to set up 23,706 industrial projects in India over the last 30 years. Construction of multi-purpose projects. Construction of reservoirs of big dams like the Bhakra Nangal, Rihand, Hirakud, Tehri, Koteshwaram, Salai, Dhulhasti, Sardar Sarovar, etc. has resulted in the submergence of large forest tracts. Commercial activities like resin extraction, mining, quarrying, oil extraction, plantation, orchard development have led to large-scale deforestation. Unfortunately, paper mills and saw factories have been located in the forest areas which accelerate the process of deforestation. The National Forest Policy. India is one of the very few countries of the world where forest policy is in operation since 1894. In 1952 and 1988, revisions were made in the forest policy of 1894. The National Forest Policy of 1952 recommended that the country should aim at coverage of 1/3 of the total land area, that is 60% in the hilly and mountainous areas and 25% in the plains. It has suggested the extension of tree lands on river or canal banks, roads, railways, cultivable waste, and in such areas which are not suitable for cultivation. Let's look at the recent forest policy, which is the National Forest Policy of 2018. The emphasis in the policy has been laid on timber and forest-based industries. The sections of rights and concession and tribal people and forests have been replaced by production forestry, increase the productivity of the forest plantations, and facilitate forest industry interface that focus on increasing the timber yield. It aims to use the degraded land available with the forest corporations for the production of quality timber. It emphasizes on bringing at least 1/3 of India's total geographical area under the forest cover through scientific approach. Focus is laid on the international challenge of climate change. Monitoring of the wildlife to be adapted on long-term basis inside and outside the forest for maintaining a balance. The commercial important trees, poplar and eucalyptus, have been encouraged in the draft, though these are deep-rooted and water-demanding. The policy has not highlighted in detail the issues of diversion of forest land for mining and other purposes and issues for the projects in the region. Natural vegetation is a potent tool for peaceful coexistence among species. Forests are biotic resources which aid humans in n number of ways. Forest and natural vegetation conservation is foremost responsibility of ours. Hope you've had a great lesson. Thank you and have a nice day.